So if you know the answer, what is it? Yeah, that's not really, I mean, solving, that's how, like, what is that? What do I say that really means? Did you have your hand up the line? What is it? And you're getting the variable alone. You got to commit that to memory. It will fix what we do in another lesson that is going to be this week. So there's a very specific reason why I use that definition, not just because I think it helps you solve these kind of problems, but there's another kind of problem that's going to be way more difficult than anything we've done for some reason. I really don't know why. If you remember that, all I'm really doing when I'm solving, when it says solve for W, all I'm really doing is getting W by itself. You've got to commit that to memory for this next lesson coming up. There's a reason why I use that definition. What's that? Well, it's really not. The math really isn't. Multi-step has more steps, and this actually has less steps, but for some reason, it's all variables. Sometimes it's all variables. There's no numbers, but you're still solving for a variable. So if you think of it as just getting a variable by itself, then it's the same stuff that we do in the other. What's number 2? Yep. Yeah, so again, if you remember that, so if you remember you're trying to get the variable alone, and then if you remember whatever I do to, in order to get that variable alone, whatever I do to one side, I got to do that same thing to the other side. You really can't mess up unless you make a math error. Which, again, I don't take off a ton of points for math errors, so you can still get passing grades if you're just making math errors. On the last one, most important thing you need to know when it's a two-step, well, not the most, they're both important, I guess. You got to know where to start. And then from there, you just think, okay, if I know where to start, I just do the opposite math for the 2 steps. So with a 2-step equation, this is a 2-step equation. There's only one term with a variable in it. That's typically going to be a 2-step equation. How do we know where to start? And don't tell me what to do with that problem, just in general. So one way we said is think farthest from the variable. So if I'm trying to get W by itself, I can zoom in now. Recording. Pretty sure I am. Oh yeah, I am. Yeah. Hold on. Why is that not working? Ah, man, I hate this computer. I'm gonna try this. It may or may not work. For some reason, all my icons disappear at the bottom sometimes. Let's go away. I'll try to open it up again. Looks like it's working. I don't know why it does that. Ah. Oh wait. All right, so it's still gonna work. Green is the green one. Ah. Oh, that it's an I use the same principle. That was the original time I created it. I used to say I don't change the date. The date's up there if you need the date. So again, I need to start with one of these 2 numbers. I need to get rid of these 2 numbers. I need to get rid of that 5 and I need to get rid of that -4. And then W will be all by itself. And we said that's the goal. Get the variable by itself. Now, here's the main mistake that I saw on the 2-step equations part of the quiz last week. We forgot, well, actually I don't, yeah, it kind of was on there. It was on the second problem, not the easy problem. We forget still, some of us, those are glued together. That negative sign in front of the 4 is glued to that 4. Got to remember that. I've said it a bunch, but I don't think it's not really sinking in, because I'll show you the mistake in a second that a bunch of people made, and this is what cost a lot of you a much better grade on both of the really 2-step quizzes. So if I need to get rid of the 4 and the 5, the -4 and the 5, we just said one way we know where to start is we say start farthest away from the variable. Well, the 5 is right next to the variable, So the -4 is farther away. Or we can say save the variable term for last. So either I think about doing this last or I think about doing that first because it's farther away. I don't care which one you remember. I don't care if you got your own. But you got to know where to start. If you're not starting in the right place, odds are you're going to make mistakes. Now we think opposite math. So the opposite of subtracting 4 is adding 4. Well, if we do it there, we got to do it there. You will start to get a lot. Will a lot of times not be fraction answers, but what I give you on quizzes will be. So just understand that a fraction is an answer. That means 5 times W. So again, I think opposite math. And again, I'm just showing you that 5W is 5 times W if you don't understand what I did there. So opposite of multiplication is division. So that's your final answer. If you're not able to do that, you're behind. You're going to struggle to pass this course. All right. Any questions on that? So that's the final answer. You can't do anything with 17/5. You could change it to a decimal, but you don't have to. And without a calculator, I wouldn't go through all the work to try to change it to a decimal. There's no reason. Most of the time, even on a district test, they're going to leave the answer in a fraction. So don't worry about changing it. All right, so now let me show you what people are kind of messing up on. Actually, let me show you something first. Let's say we did the wrong thing. This is why my #1 rule is my #1 rule. And I want you to see this so that you can, again, focus more on that rule. If I did the wrong thing, so let's say I, for whatever reason, said, you know what, I know I need to do the opposite and get rid of that 13. Wrong step. You don't need to do anything with that 13. That's not where the variable is. Let's say I did. And let's say I did, and again, but I remember the #1 rule is whatever I do on one side, I do on the other side. So I do that on the other side. Now you have to do the math correctly for this to still work out, but it will if you do the math correctly. So 13 subtract 13 is 0. We will sometimes get 0 on the right. Some of you freak out when you all of a sudden you think everything goes away. Well, if everything goes away, you have to have something on that side. So you put a 0. Now I'm like, well, wait a minute, that didn't really get me any closer. I still have 2 things over here where the variable is. I started with 2, I still have 2, I didn't get rid of anything. Maybe I was supposed to do this. Maybe I was supposed to do the opposite on this side. So you do the opposite there, do the opposite, sort of the same thing on the other side. You'll notice we get to the same exact place we were when we did it correctly. I didn't mess anything up. That's why my #1 rule is my #1 rule. If you do the same thing on both sides, you'll never mess up the equations. It may take you longer. And again, that assumes you do your math correct. And then now my last step would still be divide by 5, same thing we got before. So you need to really focus on that rule and then the goal of just getting the variable by itself. And even when you get to more difficult equations, you'll find that they sometimes just kind of work themselves out, even if you do the wrong step every once in a while. Here's the biggest mistake that actually cost people both on the first quiz and the second quiz. And I've already shown this once, but people still did it. Again, it all comes from remembering those are glued together. That is glued together. That positive sign in front of the 5 is glued to it. Why do you have a backpack and you got your flag? Skipping because you're outside. Skipping. Yeah, literally the definition of skipping is not being in a class, you're supposed to be. Get in. All right. You better have a sub. So if I give you this problem, actually no, here we're gonna flip it around. This problem. Why do you don't like that? Looks weird, for whatever reason, you don't like seeing it like that. So you want to change it around. And you're right, you can. The right side is equal to the left side, so I can change it around and put the 10 on the right and put the other expression on the left. but you're doing it incorrectly. Half the people that flipped it did it wrong. And so you immediately got the problem. You don't write the correct or the problem in the correct way. When you flip it, you can't get the correct answer. This is glued to that 8. That's a positive 2. That positive is glued to that 2. You've got to remember that. And that's in all types of equations, like any equation. Whatever is in front of the number is glued to it. So if I flip it, it's that. Too many people are putting 8x subtract 2. And then you're done. Like, you got it wrong already just from the very beginning. Nothing you can do to get the right answer if you're writing the wrong equation down. You've got to remember that the sign in front of the number, if there's no sign there, it's positive. So there was no sign in front of the 2, so it's a positive 2. But that sign is glued to that number when you flip it. From there, now you, if you wrote it correctly, the people that did that got it right. But the only other mistake is sometimes when people have a negative in front of it and they bring it down, some people are forgetting to bring down the negative. So they might have the 8 there, but then when they bring it down, sometimes they'll just bring the 8x, especially if the 8x is in the kind of the middle of the problem. They'll forget to bring that subtraction or that negative down. So just remember, they're glued together. If I divide, same thing. I need to divide by negative. That was another one that cost people points. And that, if you forget to divide by the negative, that isn't a math error. That's a process error. That's a big mistake. A math error is writing the correct step, but then doing the math wrong. You've got to just remember, if you have to write it every time I say it, the sign in front of the number is glued to the number. All right, so here's what we're doing.